Good morning, Claire. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, we have our fourth class in our series, 10-part series, and today's class is on budgeting,
Important step.
important step. So tell me what you think about when you think about budgeting. What comes to mind?
So I was thinking about that I think the word budgeting, or when people talk about budgeting, it has a negative connotation. That, if somebody goes, "Oh no, it's not on my budget," they always feel they attach that to being broke, where it really isn't. It really means that you are smart with your money, and you know exactly where it is going and and when. So, we have to train our brain that it is not a negative thing. It's actually a
Yeah,
smart thing.
it really is a smart thing. There's a lot of ways to budget, and you look at online. There's so many different ideas and concepts and today we're going to cover a few of those. Um, one thing that I think of with budgeting is it's kind of like kind of like working out. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we all, and I say we all, maybe not you, but most of us. I have joined gyms before and I've gone in and of course I compare myself to others. And so I can't lift as much as others. Or, that started when I was a kid. I was like, I couldn't lift as much as my friends and stuff. And so I was always self-conscious about that. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like that in a budget where it is a muscle that we need to cultivate, that we need to work on. And the beauty about budgeting is that again, it's like a muscle where we work on it today, and if we slide a little bit tomorrow, that's okay.
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
Get back on the horse and we get working out again. It's something that's good for us, something that we can do. And we'll talk about needs and wants today and different things, but why why do you think budgeting is important?
Because it helps you. So, in the previous classes, we talked about goals and what your plan is. And I strongly believe that the budget helps uh, helps you uh, reach that goal.
You know, it does. I mean, of course, being in the housing industry, you selling houses, and then I sell money. um, we see people that we've got a budget for that down payment. We got a budget for the
Correct.
costs. Um, I work with clients all the time, and one of my first questions to a client is, "What's your budget for a house payment, taxes, and insurance?" So what's your budget? And I can't tell you. I mean, most of the time, clients that they don't know, they don't have an idea.
Right.
And so then I'll rephrase that by, what are you most comfortable spending on a monthly basis for your house payment, taxes, and insurance?
Yeah.
And um, and so I help clients start to create a budget, at least for their house at that point, if they haven't thought about it. And sometimes they haven't, sometimes they haven't. But there's a difference between what somebody qualifies for and what they're comfortable spending, or what their budget is
Mm-hmm.
spending. And so
Mm-hmm.
you follow Dave Ramsey, and
Mm-hmm.
there's there's a lot, especially when looking at houses with Dave Ramsey. He believes that nobody should ever do a 30-year mortgage. Everybody should do a 15-year mortgage. He believes um, that really your income should not exceed, or your house payment should not exceed 20 to 25% um, of your income. Which again, at that point, nobody's buying houses. So we
Yeah.
have to we have to we have to budget a little bit more. I have to stretch a little bit more. I know for me, when my wife and I bought our first house, we went from paying $485 a month in rent to paying a $1,600 mortgage.
Right, typical.
Difficult. And I was freaking out because I was like, holy cow, how are we gonna make this work? And the budget allowed us to be able to do that.
Correct. So it adjusts. So really a budget is not, it changes with time because your needs change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course,
And nobody has to know you're on a budget,
no.
you know?
Mm-mm. So, and sorry, I'm gonna probably sneeze sometimes here and mess with my nose because it's allergy season. This
It
is the way
is.
when we're doing this. So, yeah, sorry. So, a budget is a recipe for how you use your money.
It is.
It helps you understand what money you have coming in, what money you have coming out, and then what money is left over on a
And what do
monthly.
you do with that money that's left over? Do you spend it on in the convenience store for you to get a soda, or do you save it? What
Yep,
should one do?
whatever you budgeted for. So, you can save it and you can have some fun with it too. I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about a budget is that you don't have to just put all your expenses down and just not budget for anything fun. Um, one thing we've talked about in the past is it's in class 2 where we talked about spenders and savers. And so in class 2, one thing that there are spenders and savers, and if I give somebody $100, a spender's it's going to be gone within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have it for 10 years. Um, and there's different things that we will be spenders and savers on. I just quite honestly. And so for me, one area that I have been a spender has been in the automobile side.
Yeah.
I have I have been reckless in our budget on the automobile side because of trauma that I had as a kid. And so for me, that was something I had to sacrifice was okay, we had cars that broke down all the time, and so I wanted to have a newer car, a bunch of the time, and something that was under warranty, something that wasn't going to break down, and if it started to have any sign of breaking down, boom, can get a new car, and
Yep.
not brand new, but a newer car. It didn't always
Yeah.
have a car. Um, so where others will keep their cars for a long time, and they're able to save that money. Um, so, but I've had to save in other areas. And so we're going on vacation. We got to save that money. And I can be very, very, I can be a saver when I'm getting ready to save for a vacation or something like that. Save for something I really want. I can really start to be a saver at that point. Do you have any experiences like that?
Yes, I'm a saver. So I definitely like to put money aside every time that I get a paycheck. I put some money aside for the rainy days and also for taxes, of course.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just the way I am. I don't like spending unless I have to.
Yep. Yep. But like, how about I have a friend of mine that is a big saver, but he becomes a spender when it goes to vacation and
Mm-hmm.
experiences. He will
Yes.
and he will pinch every penny, and he makes good income, so he'll pinch every penny during the week and save and save and save. But when it goes to a vacation or an experience like that, something like that, he's gonna spend.
Yeah, I can relate with that too. Yes, because you just never know when you're gonna go back or yes, bringing something back that reminds you of that experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's look at this slide here. So what is your recipe? A budget tells us how to mix your money to make sure you cover the things you need, like rent, groceries, and bills.
Yep.
You'll have some left for the things that you want, which are fun and savings. So again, we don't have to have a budget just to have, just all of our bills in it, but we put money in there for the fun things too, for going out and different things. The goal of a budget is to make sure your money works for you, so you're in control of where it goes instead of wondering where it went.
Yes, so that you don't live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, owning your future means the freedom to decide how you spend your money. Spending money is a very personal decision, and many people feel judged in the process.
Very much.
The key to managing money stress is to know what you have to spend each month and to live and to decide what you want to save for.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we look at creating a budget, and what I'll say for our listeners here is that if you want this Excel spreadsheet, either contact Claire or myself, and so we can send you this Excel spreadsheet. We've got a budgeting worksheet. You start to put down, your rent and everything. You work with your income. This becomes hard when you're in a job like Claire or I, where your commission income.
Yeah,
You just do the best that you can. I try to do, I don't know how you do it, but I try to do an average. Um,
exactly. Yes.
so we have so I have a good idea of, okay, here's what we need. Um, but ultimately, you put your rent down, you put your biggest expenses first, and then you just keep going down the actual line items. And then you put down your wants as well. So you've got your needs and your wants. Um, your door dashes and different things like that. So dining out and coffee budget and gym
And
membership.
then one doesn't have to stick to this. So, for example, if you do not go to the gym, remove that. And maybe you have a dog, maybe you need to add vet and dog food expenses that can go instead of the gym.
Yep, exactly. Make it yours. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so the things that you don't have, take it out. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't need an alcohol budget. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I love movies. And so go to the theater a lot, go to the movie theater. So that's a great way. Now, as you go through, there's some rules that we're going to talk about here that we're really where you want to get to with budgeting. But first, just jot everything down and keep track of your expenses. Keep track of the money that you're spending on a monthly basis, where it's going, how much, because that's one thing of creating your budget. It's kind of like for business professionals creating a business plan, but then never going back and looking at your business plan. And so
Right.
you want to create your budget and then you want to go back and then track your expenses and figure out where you spent the money at on a monthly basis.
Yep.
So again, really creating that budget, income is coming in, expenses are the stuff that you're spending money on,
Going out.
and then how much money do you bring home? How much money do you spend monthly? So you list all of your expenses, put them in the Excel spreadsheet. The goal is to be able to have more income than expenses. So
Yeah.
not to have more month at the end of your money. I've heard that one, but to have more income than expenses. And then you have savings. Why do we want savings?
For the rainy days. Well, and it depends on your goal. What are you saving for? Maybe you're saving for a car. Maybe you're saving for a new stove, a barbecuer. It could be saving for vacation or whatever. The savings should be what allows you to sleep at night.
You know, yeah. And so it could be so many different things, right? one thing that I like to do with our clients is I like to, um, with their savings, I like to create a 3 to 6 month account where they keep their savings and that has all of their expenses in it. So heaven forbid something happen, they lose their job or something, they're okay for 3 to 6 months. They
Nice,
don't,
perfect. Everybody should do that.
you know, they don't have issues and that. And um, so the other thing is that in the house, once they buy a house, if their water heater goes out, they don't have to use a credit card to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
They can use their savings out of their 3 to 6 month account and then replenish that.
Yep,
So
little by little, for sure.
exactly. Now, there's a good rule of thumb when we're looking at budgeting, and that is the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard of that?
Needs, wants, saving goals.
Yeah. So really needs about 50% of your monthly gross income. And it's not your net income, it's your gross income, how much money you've brought home. So after you've paid your taxes and that, so it's your gross income. So about 50% goes to your needs. That would be your rent, your food, your
Power,
power,
internet,
yeah, your
car
auto,
insurance.
all of that. And then 30% will go to wants. So, different things that you want, different things that you it can be your movie fund, it can be your alcohol fund,
Starbucks,
your
Dutch
dog.
Bros.
Yep. It can be whatever you want, whatever, and then 20% for savings. Um, Now, if you look at like Dale Carnegie and you look at some other people, they talk about savings first. And so
Mm-hmm.
how you work your budget is you take your monthly gross income, you then subtract 20% from the top, put that into savings, and then you work on your needs and then you work on your wants. Um, I honestly don't care how you do it, as long as you do it. Um, and then you follow,
Whatever works best for you.
yeah, it's a personal thing, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. It definitely is a moldable thing for you to match your needs, wants, and your family.
So I would say the most conservative way is really paying yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
socking that money into savings. That's the wisest decision. And so, sometimes though, um, we're not going to be able to save a great deal. And even if you save $5 a month, you just start saving that money as best you can. Start
Correct.
just like when, I go to the gym and I can't lift what other people lift, and I don't look the way that other people look, that have been going to the gym forever. Well, they've been working that muscle forever. And so I got to start working it. And just, even if it's $5 a month, you just really save what you can. So,
Every little thing counts.
mhm,
You just gotta start somewhere.
you know, so if you want that Excel spreadsheet, contact Claire or myself. We're more than happy to get it out to you.
Yep.
So, Um, there's power in budgeting, and so really you start off with remembering your own goals, keep track of your spending,
Mm-hmm.
prioritize your needs and your wants, manage your impulse purchases and eating out.
And if you
And
fall off the wagon once or twice, it's totally okay. Just get back on it.
yep,
We all slip a little bit.
yep, do the best we
Just
can.
remember.
And then we update as life changes. And so your budget becomes really a working, breathing document.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
All
don't worry about what other people are saying, friends and some family members, your friends are not, they don't pay your bills. So nobody should, don't take anything personally when somebody is saying something negative about budgeting or whatever.
exactly. I mean, it's again all individual. So, um, the one advice that I would have is don't worry about what the Joneses are doing next door.
Yep,
Just it you be you. And
it's
so,
true. So
you know,
true.
you be you and do the best that you can. And one thing um that I look at with budgeting is um one area that I'm concerned about for my clients is because we see, the client's total financial picture, as I see that a lot of clients, a lot of people aren't saving for retirement.
Yeah.
And that is when you work for an employer that does, employee matching funds and things like that, that's the best way to be able to get a raise right away. And sometimes in a highly inflationary market like today, maybe you can't put as much money towards your retirement. Um, but then as things get a little bit looser, then, try to put as much as you can towards your retirement. And look for those ways. 401k, a company 401k, that's all going to be pre-tax dollars.
Yeah.
So when you get to retirement, those taxes are going to come out at that time. Um, but if you can have another account that would be post-tax dollars, so maybe you're contributing a little bit to both. You have another 401k where you've got post-tax dollars, so you've already paid the taxes on them, except for the growth. That's always good. And I came across a study that a couple years ago that said 75% of Americans lose sleep over retirement.
Yep.
That concerns me. So I think what happens with our houses is as we buy our house, I think we pay into our house over time, and we pay that mortgage down or potentially off.
Mm-hmm.
And there's mortgages now that called a HECM mortgage, home equity conversion mortgage, that then at retirement, our house can pay us. So as we've fed that retirement, or fed that house, if we haven't been able to save for retirement, I think our house ends up becoming our retirement as well.
Nice. That's pretty smart.
So, it's something that, and what's nice about that is that when we pull money out of our house, it's not taxed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, Robert Kiyosaki talks about how, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about how whenever he wants money, whenever he needs money, he just refinances another property and he pulls money out of that property. And that money's not taxed because it's, it's out of the real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so that's something that we really start to look at as well is are you on that trajectory for retirement? And if you're not, what can we do to help you get there as a budget item?
Yep.
So, one thing I just ask our viewers is really how did your view of budgeting change? Was there anything that Claire or I shared with you today that helped you? Anything that popped up in your mind that maybe you hadn't thought of, or that you want to do differently, or maybe you've never done a budget, now you want to start a budget. So just let us know. And we're here again to be able to help. How about for you, Claire? Is there anything that we talked about that kind of stood out in your mind?
Really, looking at my notes here, saving is just so important, and I really can't express enough that the needs and the wants are important, and that's something that you can teach on very early on to a child, in anybody. Like, when you go to a store and they're like, "Hey, mom, can you buy this for me?" Well, do you really want it, or do you really need it? Like, which is it? And that starts the wheels going. And if they're like, well, I don't need it, most of the time they're going to put it back. So it really teaches good values to people. And then, yeah, every little bit helps, and nobody has to know. And
Yeah,
it's never too late to start saving 5, 10, $20, $50 if you can. It adds up fast.
yeah, it definitely does. I did a calculation one time that if you took $500 and invested it when you were 14 years old and didn't put any more money into it, just at $500, over the lifetime of that $500 grows until retirement at 65. How much do you think it's worth by the time that you're 65?
I
And
would say a million,
towards it. How much?
a million.
No,
No,
it's 45,000.
that's still really good.
But ultimately it's just $500 invested at 14. And remember, every 7 years, 7 to 10 years, that money grows and doubles. And
Yeah,
it keeps growing and doubling and compounding. And so those are the things that we're going to start to talk more and more about as we go into our next classes, as we have our credit classes, and that we're going to start to share some ideas with you on investing and on getting your first credit card and how to manage debt and things like that. There's some tricks of the trade that we have that we'll be able to share with you. So
exciting.
last but not least, if you haven't done it yet, please have some fun as a family and just click on this link right here. Um, just do the QR code right there. And this is our first home IQ quiz. It's a
Such a fun quiz.
Yeah, it's a fun, easy quiz. Uh,
Mhm.
and it just tells you kind of where you're strong at and maybe some areas that you need to brush up upon. For a lot of us, it's been a long time since we've had any fiscal literacy classes or anything like that. And for some of us, this is the first time that we're having fiscal literacy classes. And so our goal is to be able to bring these to you, to be able to make an impact upon your life. Um, and, you know, as you've been able to make an impact upon ours, we want to help you. So, any last words, Claire?
No, take the quiz, compete with your friends and family, see who wins, and then get a hold of us when you have questions. We're always available for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And thanks, Claire. And thanks for watching. And if
Thanks
there's
for
anything,
having me.
please let us know.
All right. Bye.